get it ready for us to watch together, and then you can explain stuff.
Okay, I'm putting it in the chat on StreamYard just because I can't not.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And I'm opening it now. And folks, welcome to the Eclectic Radical. Sorry that we are starting a little slow today. As always, I am Chris Richards, the Eclectic Radical, and with me is Bess Goden to co-host, and she is also, of course, the host of the Millennial Splaining program on YouTube. How are you today, Bess?
Hey, thank you. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for coming on. All right. I think I have this ready to go. Let me just make sure I'm sharing the screen before I start playing it.
We didn't even have to start there. I was just...
No, let's go. I want to see this video too. I haven't seen it. And I want...
This is a video...
Sure. Yes, explain to folks what we're going to be seeing.
Yes. So I was watching, I'm trying, so, okay, this is a series of events that happened to me this morning. I saw your tweet saying we were going to talk about Kamala Harris. I then looked on my YouTube very quickly, and the first video I saw about Kamala Harris was from the Vanguard, because I love those boys. And so they had a clip of Robbie and his new sidekick.
And which reminds me, here it is, folks. We're ready to play it in a sec.
And the clip, I mean, what they have to say about the clip is completely valid. And they educated me about what a brat summer actually is, because I'm old enough not to know. And
I understand. No, that's a new song, apparently, by somebody who's popular with the youth.
With the youth is. But anyway, so yeah, I think it's a good video. We maybe don't have to go through the whole thing, but the parts where... Yeah, just yeah. I mean, so basically, they're talking about a video that they saw on Rising, and they're roasting Robbie for being such a crazy, out of touch yo-yo.
Okay, but there was something that this tied into that you wanted me to know about.
Okay, right. So backing up, there is a youth movement. Okay, that seems to be.
A youth movement, or an astroturfed aspiration of a youth movement by the Democrats?
Well, it seems to be, that's what part of the conversation is during the video. And it seems to be, from my brief research this morning, it seems to be actually grassroots.
That seems unlikely. So as far as this goes, to the best of my knowledge, the artist who did the Brat Summer song,
right,
released a tweet saying that Kamala Harris was brat.
Yes.
Which is stupid and doesn't mean anything. But
no,
appears to be intended by the Biden people, or rather, I'm sorry, they're the Harris people now, as somehow meaning that there is genuine youth support for Kamala Harris because this one singer thinks she's brat. Is that what we're talking about?
No. So the full story is that there is a singer on TikTok who released...
I know the singer.
Hold on. There was a singer on TikTok who released an album called Brat Summer before Kamala Harris announced. Okay.
Yes, she did. And then she's the one who said Kamala Harris is brat.
Yes, but she only said that after everybody made that association with her. So what happened was there were fans on TikTok that were making edits.
So when we say fans on TikTok, we mean people working for Harry Sisson with the Kamala Harris campaign.
One has to assume.
Okay, I just want to say that out loud. When we talk about grassroots youth movements.
I appreciate that. And that's specifically also why I sent you the link to the TikTok itself that seems to be the most popular. Because you can sort of see like how somebody had to be very knowledgeable about any of the clips of Kamala Harris that took off at all in her life. Like to the point where like I've never heard any of these. You know what I'm saying? And two, like
well, it's just somebody putting stuff together to do a montage. That's not really such a big deal. That's a Google search. And I mean, it sounds impressive, but
No,
It's
no,
just a
no.
Google
It's not
search.
impressive, and that's the point.
Mhm.
The point is that it's if you're thinking about who made this video after we watch it,
Sure.
you can see that this person really did, at least do some serious research into Kamala Harris's, because these quotes are completely out of context and ridiculous. But you have to research the quotes for them to make sense. And that's why I think, again, this
I'm
person.
not sure what we're talking about now. I'm lost. I'm sorry.
Well, that's because I'm trying to describe videos to you that we haven't seen yet, and I'm so sorry.
Well, and that's the thing is don't try to describe TikTok stuff we haven't seen yet. Tell me what I need to see, where I need to be starting this video.
Okay, well, I'm trying to do that.
No, it's okay.
It's just that it's like, okay, so as I was saying, there is a supposed youth movement that is uplifting Kamala Harris and using this album Brat Summer to do so. Okay, and other songs as well. And if you want to play that video now, we can see that video and we can say this is supposed to be emblematic of that youth movement. That is one of the TikToks I sent you.
Okay, I'm still confused. So what is this? So there was this. I thought there was something we were going to be watching from Vanguard.
There is something we're going to be watching from Vanguard.
We're talking about everything else right now, and it's it's the video that we were going to watch that was supposedly going to make me understand everything.
Okay.
And instead of talking about why it will help me understand everything, we're talking about everything else.
Well, to understand the Vanguard video that will then help you understand, I am describing to you what the Vanguard video is about. So I'm describing to you.
Okay, so I guess I don't understand this whole premise of a youth movement. I mean, so is the Vanguard video claiming there is a youth movement, or are they talking about the claim there is a youth movement?
They're talking about the claim there's a youth movement because MSM is claiming there is a youth movement.
Okay, well, let's just see what the video says. I'm sorry. I'm not having a good job following this. And I haven't heard MSM claim anything except that now Kamala Harris is running. And the only reason they've said that is because Joe Biden finally admitted he wasn't.
Let me just say this. I first of all would have preferred to start there, and I think we would have ended up in this murky land of whatever. But second of all, let me just say that the point of this entire subject being brought up is that this quote unquote youth movement is one. It's saying a couple things about the actual youth and how low our expectations are, and B, how little it requires for us to be, how, like this is definitely, it feels AstroTurf. It does feel,
well, yeah.
But
well, let's take a look then, because I think I know what you're talking about now. Let's watch the video and see.
Okay. I'm so sorry, everybody.
It's okay.
I also got some schooling in this from some of my younger colleagues at Reason Magazine. And there's been, so this has hit the whole understanding of Brat and the cultural moment has now, like the wave has crashed or crested or whatever. So,
yes.
Is it my fault?
Yes, Bess?
No, I said, is there an echo? There was an echo in the video.
I don't know. I didn't hear one. If it's on in more than one, I've got it on in the window, so it might be. I had muted my mic to try to get rid of any echo, but.
Okay, give it another shot. Maybe we'll be all right.
So that we all have to discuss this for the next week or whatever. The Free Press, Barry Weiss's Free Press, had an article about this from my friend Kat Rosenfeld, who is a really good processor of pop culture trends and what they mean for pop
So let me stop right here.
They do that too, by
They're
the way.
they're referencing Barry Weiss and the Free Press on Rising. Now, Rising is, of course, put out by The Hill, and The Hill is a horrible right-wing rag.
Yep.
And Barry Weiss is a horrible, bad faith right-wing troll who doesn't even belong in media and yet somehow is. And on top of that is misrepresented as the typical liberal, which is just this whole complicated mess. And I do believe that Barry Weiss does have more in common with the typical media than mainstream media really believes itself. But that just has to do more with what communists say about liberals than anything mainstream media does. Anyway, sorry, let me start this again.
You're good.
Politics. So I'm just going to read what she wrote about it. She says the best summary of...
I can assure you this is the last source on planet Earth you should be going to learn about the brat summer.
Yeah, you're about to hear that for sure.
Bratdom might come from my Free Press colleague, River Page, who quips, Brat Girl Summer is just women acting like gay guys. Charlie XCX describes the quintessential brat as just that girl who's a little messy and maybe says dumb things sometimes, who feels herself, but then also maybe has a breakdown and parties through it. It's honest, blunt, and volatile. Why would you want to associate a presidential candidate with a steady diet of self-regard and cocaine in slime-colored clothing?
Well, those people don't understand culture. That's not what Brat Summer is. This is the right and right-leaning people coping with the girls, gays, and theys winning the culture war, quite frankly. You have Fox News giving commentary on Brat Summer, using brat language to make political points. We've already won. They look ridiculous and silly. This is the youth vote decidedly saying.
So
we've already won the culture war. Now, this is an interesting statement, and this is the sort of thing that fits Rising, because Rising is a really right-wing show that tries to frame that tries to put a left-wing viewpoint out there and never does it very well. They fired Katie Halper and Brianna Joy Gray for being consistently left-wing.
Yep.
On topics like Israel and Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they're still claiming they're trying to put this out there. And now I guess this is Brianna's replacement or some such.
Mm-hmm.
But it would appear that now we have somebody who's talking about some sort of weird Gen Z triumphalism. We won the culture war because people are using Gen Z memes about Kamala Harris running for president, and that's just pissed conservatives off. And that has to do with someone actually running for president.
I think her point was smaller there. I think it was less so that we've won the culture war and more so that we've won the war in this case, that the Brat Summer is now something that people talk about. Is that what her point was? Yeah,
but I'm not sure that makes any sense all of a sudden in the way she thinks it does.
Right. Well, so her assertion is that this really is a youth movement, and it's really, really so uplifting to see the youth like embrace Kamala and.
Well, I guess so. We'll see.
Anti-patriarchal society.
No, I know. I get that. That's what she's saying. She appears to be associating this pop singer with the girls, gays, and theys. I got that part.
Yes. Well, so her point is not. So
her culture war argument seems to be an identity argument.
Well, obviously, but the point is less that. Okay, so there's a couple things happening here. Okay, firstly, we need to understand that this woman, I believe her name is Jessica, she did not make up this correlation.
Oh, I know.
Okay. she's just commenting on it. So
Fine.
the other thing that we need to talk about is that we are so starved for a real
Jessica Burbank. That's who she is. Okay, I know who she is.
Oh, okay.
She's the nice lady from TYT who went off about how people were being mean to her favorite professor, Emily Oster, and Emily Oster didn't deserve it just because she was a COVID denier. That's who Jessica Burbank is.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, I just saw you said this Jessica, and I said, and now I see her last name. Yeah, Jessica Burbank was with the Young Turks Network.
Ugh.
So she is a graduate of the Cenk and Anna School of Media.
Yeah, clearly.
And really specifically, yeah, she was a student of Emily Oster's who felt the need to defend her out of personal loyalty when all the COVID conscious people were pointing out, hey, telling people not to wear a mask during a pandemic is bad, Emily.
Well, so not to change the subject, but
no, I'm sorry. I changed the subject now that I realized who she is. Sorry about that.
No, I'm glad you brought it up. I didn't know that myself. So I'm glad you brought that up, and that makes her even more fucking ridiculous as a authority on the left. Get the fuck out of here with that. But it is speaking to a need for there is a
I want to say, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
I think Bree Joy and Katie have both been a little too eager sometimes to make nice with people on the right. But at the same time, they really have been very consistent about voicing their values no matter what. And what does it say that the Rising decided to replace Bree Joy with somebody from the Young Turks who defended Emily Oster on Twitter?
Yeah, exactly. Well said.
So, okay, now that's my last digression, and I'll get us back to the video now.
No,
Sorry
that's fine. That was totally a valid digression. I appreciate it because you're right. You're absolutely right, and it's just and it's important to just 100 what you're saying. It's important for us to know who is speaking to us and to know whose talking points we're hearing. You know what I'm saying, and where they came from. And that's not something we talk about enough, I think, in general. So I am glad you brought that up. But so what's happening here, and I think this also speaks to the fact that feminism is sort of being reached out to by the right as well, is that there is an overwhelming population in America that is celebrating sort of anti-patriarchal living, to the point where like if you can find an intersection between feminism, African American civil rights, all POC civil rights, and the LGBTQ movement. If you can find that sort of intersection, like there is actually
there's lots of intersections like that.
I'm going to say that there is actually a culture war here.
Oh, there's absolutely a culture war, but the culture war isn't about. Well, never mind. I'm going on to another. But yes, no, I get what.
So my point is that the idea that there is finally a leader that we can somewhat get behind, and the point of what they're going to.
But it's
video. Hold on, let me just finish my thought because I'm going to forget it. I'm sorry, Chris.
Sure.
So it is that is that a brat is somebody who embraces their emotional self. Okay, that inherently is anti-patriarchal, and a brat is somebody who lives their life in an emotional way.
I'm gonna stop you here though, because a brat is someone who lives their life in an emotional way. Well, this sounds like the romantic idea from the 19th century, where, you know, we need to put less important on, we need to focus less on sense and more on our sensibilities. We need to understand our sentimentality, and we need to follow our sentiments.
And where did that movement come from?
That movement came from Byron and Shelley and a whole lot of men who were angry at Protestantism and couldn't decide whether they wanted to be atheists or Catholics, and ended up being really reactionary, and a lot of their thinking led to Nazism.
Okay.
So I think it's interesting that this sort of emotionalism, I mean, we're getting an aesthetic here, and the aesthetic is being used as a symbol of resistance, whereas the aesthetic is just an aesthetic that you can attach to anything. Anybody can talk about their feelings.
Well, that's exactly was going to be my point.
Yeah.
Is that what is happening, that I believe that if people are genuinely excited about Kamala for these reasons, they are projecting onto her, because she clearly is not a genuine person. She is not the kind of person that, she doesn't embrace herself in the same way that a brat person would.
No, she embraces a set of safe and popular and well-funded.
Right. Whereas a brat person would be true to themselves and
without,
say, right?
Without ever really moving from her positions.
Exactly. So the projection is deep, but I think it comes from a real need in society, because there is a growing population of people who feel not represented by, you know what I'm like. We need to
have a show one of these days. Well, we'll probably get to it as this one goes along, but we really need to have a show about representation versus liberation.
I definitely would love to have that conversation. I would also love to have that conversation with Renee and Jared from BPM.
Yes, I would too.
Because I heard them talk about it a little bit on their show once, and I definitely would like to bring them in on it.
Let me start this video again. Sorry.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. The days, gays, or the these days and gays, whatever she said. That was a great line. I butchered it on the rerun, but we can play it one more time for you if we want.
Let's go back a little bit.
She was spitting right there.
Gays and theys winning the culture war. Right-leaning people coping with the girls, gays, and theys winning the culture war. Quite frankly, you have Fox News giving commentary on Brat Summer, using brat language to make political points. We've already won. They look ridiculous and silly. This is the youth vote decidedly saying we are on the left. And that's what this is. And they're going to cope with this however they may. And it's very fun to watch every.
Now, I notice she's automatically conflating Kamala and Democrats with the left without ever saying anything about why or how they're left.
Yeah, because they're not.
No, of course not. But of course, I mean, that's what I'd expect from the Young Turks. So that makes sense. And that plays right into her sort of labeling as the culture of the culture wars as the girls, gays, and theys somehow owning the rest of us as if it was nothing more serious than that.
Yeah, again, I don't think that her statement was necessarily intended to be phrased broadly.
Well, I get a feeling that's sort of how she sees right and left based on that statement of left. That it's an identity question to her, and that she seems to be very excited that the culture is spinning in her direction, and that means that everything else is just sort of inevitable in the end.
Right.
I mean, unless you're saying that that's totally scripted for her by someone else, which I suppose is totally possible.
No, I know. I think she probably believes what she's saying. I think a lot of people believe that, in fact.
Sure.
And I think that that actually is probably something good to talk to about.
Yes.
Is that you know, I mean this idea that so first of all, let me just 100 what you were saying by saying that, conflating the Democrats and Kamala Harris with the left is erasing an entire leftist ideology in this country. Just absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, what they are is the most moderate of conservatives, right? I mean, that's basically the spectrum we're talking about between Democrats and Republicans here. And we are in celebrating Kamala Harris's identity and projecting all of these sort of desires onto her, because she will not, when she gets into office, she's not going to bring back, Roe. She's not going to, like make sure that gay marriage is safe and stuff. She's not going to be an effective like bulwark to
and I noticed
fuckery like Democrats never have been. I mean,
I noticed that the Vanguard guys were sort of focused on, oh, that was a great line, and didn't really talk about what might have been underneath too. But,
there's half the video you haven't seen yet.
Sure, I know. We got to go with the rest of it.
We don't. I mean, and we could sort of fast forward a little bit through it too.
Yeah, and I may do that. We'll see.
They sort of summarize their comments, but my point is that did I fucking lose it? What was I talking about, bro?
We were talking about the identity, the superficial identity making of feminism, and how that the Democratic Party's quote unquote progressive left is not actually as far left as you can go, but there's a cultural perception that it is.
Right. So on the other end of that spectrum, or on the other hand, sort of, you have people on the left, or quote unquote left, arguing that because the dichotomy between the Democrats and Republicans is primarily a social war, social war issue, then that issue is a distraction from real issues in society, which again is also not true.
Well, so
that's
let's raise. Let's just. What if it's just the Democrats and Republicans who are the distraction from other issues in society?
That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. And the way that they use things that have come from a real leftist background, from an actual research perspective, ideologies and such, is the most superficial understanding of what they're using, and it is also only used for their purposes. They have cherry picked what they see of those leftist movements and chosen to use the ones that will support their case. So the representation of ID politics, I guess, that you are seeing in the mainstream media, that you are seeing around Kamala Harris, is it's like the Barbie representation of what actual intersectional feminism is.
Yes.
So, but there is a thirst for it, and it is growing. And I think that we are hungry for it, and there's a reason we are projecting these hopes.
Well, yes. The hopes are important. I mean, you look at the poll numbers and you see that most American voters want things like health care and daycare for their kids, and housing and jobs guarantees and universal income guarantees, and all these things that would help people just get along a little better if you look at the polls.
Mm-hmm.
And democratically, they're denied all these things. And then you get someone who comes on and says sort of aspirationally things could be so much better, and then they project all the ways things could be better onto that person. because that person uses the right catchphrases and talks about representing change. And then you sort of forget that these people have been that these two political parties have been in power since the end of World War II, and very little has actually changed.
So yes, so the other TikToks that I have sent, or one of the other TikToks that I have sent you, it is the actual video itself, right?
Yeah.
There are two phrases that are sort of memed out of this video. One of which is Kamala Harris telling a story about her mother and how her mother asked her once if she just fell out of a coconut tree or something like that. That's what the quote is. And the point of that story in the context of Kamala's speech was that, you know, you are affected by the community around you and you cannot escape that, essentially. The point was poorly made. Nobody got the joke reference at the time. The crowd was silent hilariously. But for some reason, somebody cherry picked that specific quote. And I think it's interesting that they did, because it also brings up the fact that she's part Jamaican, right? So I think that was a strategic quote, and there was no other attraction to it. And it's weird.
Well, I mean, that's where that coconut meme on social media comes from, by the way. Did you just fall out of a coconut tree or something?
Yeah.
All the Kamala Harris supporters on Twitter have coconuts in their descriptions now.
Exactly. It's like a unifying thing now for them. And you're like, what? Why?
Well, again, it has to do with aesthetics and what we're talking. So, you know how the media, I hate to go into a mainstream media argument, but Robbie and Jessica are actually good examples of what the media means when they talk about tribalism. Mm-hmm. It's just when the media talks about tribalism, they claim to be talking about us, but they're really talking about themselves.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Because this idea of political tribalism is, of course, tribalism is when you share a whole bunch of ideas with people you think are like you. Mm-hmm. And you're loyal to that tribe and that set of ideas above all else. And everything is put into that framework. Well, that's exactly the attitude of the Democrats and Republicans in these very formalized political roles that they are put into by the media, whereas most people in the general public are like, damn it, make my life better. Anyway, let me start this video again.
That's cool. Yeah, please play a little more. They definitely say some good things.
Everyone misunderstand what Brat is about and try and make sense of it.
I
No, Robbie, Kamala Harris isn't on the left, but do you know who's so far from the left that everybody is just breathing an absolute sigh of relief? Donald Trump. Young people still grew up in a time when we thought it was unfathomable for an idiot piece of shit like Donald Trump, some rich, out-of-touch, elitist asshole, some oaf embodiment of the worst of America. See, here in America, if we're going to embody the worst of us, we have to at least anoint it to somebody that we pretend has credentials, like George Bush, right? George W. Bush, right? We're like, wow, his daddy was president. He must have learned something. You know, anyway, I'm kidding. But the reality is that almost everybody with a sane brain and most young people were just absolutely so far away from Donald Trump that it's just a relief that we don't have a guy with half a Campbell's soup for brains running against a guy who would try and turn this country into a fat.
The Vanguard guys are so white.
Honestly, I think it's a valid point.
No, I get what they're saying. I get what they're saying, but they're just there's this whole liberal idea that if they just get rid of Biden, people will forget that Harris was his vice president and essentially believes everything he believes. And they're sort of showing it also in their statement that their objection to the aesthetics of Donald Trump. I'm going on too much. Anyway, It's basically what they have just said. What they have just done is they have encapsulated the white liberal objection to Donald Trump. He makes us look like we put clowns in charge. At least the last clown had credentials.
Listen, both Joe Biden and Trump have demonstrated signs of dementia since 2016.
Yes.
The fact that there is somebody who we would be voting for that is younger than the age of dementia.
But she's not younger than the age of dementia. She's going to be 60. I mean, people there are 60-year-olds who have dementia.
Younger, because you haven't had anybody younger than 70 run for president since Obama.
No, I understand that, but I really want to make that point, though. She's going to be 60. She's a boomer. Some of the people supporting her were saying things like, don't even make an argument for a boomer for president anymore. She is a boomer.
No, I think she's an Xer.
No, 19. Boomer is 50 to 65. She was born in 64.
Okay. She was born in 64. Okay. I have to check that, but okay.
She's 1 year younger than my wife.
Got it. So are you a boomer too then?
I am an Xer. I was born in 77. Okay. I'm younger than my wife.
Oh baby. Noise. So okay, but so anyway,
But anyway, I'm going to go back. I shouldn't be hard on the Vanguard guys. They're cool. I'm very, very snarky about this. This relief that Harris isn't Biden, because I mean, I feel like there's this. He's so senile. Yeah, he's senile, but the last guy was senile when he was president too, and he was senile, and this guy was senile the whole time he was president. And what we really object to is the genocide. We'd be fine with the senility if he weren't genociding people.
I understand.
I mean, the individual capacities of the president are much less important than the fact that he's sending the money to the IDF. And Kamala Harris is still going to send the money to the IDF.
Yes, she is. Absolutely. I am. And let me make it very fucking clear. There's no universe in which I would endorse Kamala Harris.
I know you support Jill Stein.
I'm not saying that any of this shit is true. In reality, what I am saying here is that I do think the Vanguard boys have a point. That
no, they're tapping into what a lot of the average white American believes, which is, oh my God, at least it's not Biden versus Trump anymore. Which I get that.
Can I finish? So
sorry.
It's okay, Chris. So see, here's what it is. It's, again, we are, the Gen Z and millennials are two generations that have, by and large, had to apply for and interview for more jobs across the board before actually getting one than any other previous generation, because there are so many job listings that are created to be not filled, and there are so many of us that are jobless and have excellent qualifications. And this is a fight we've been fighting for a long time. And it is disgusting eternally for us to see people in office making bank, considering that, like, my last job was $15 an hour.
No, and I want to note that as someone looking for another job right now, because I can't afford where I live anymore, she's right. There are a massive number of fake job listings out there that have been up forever.
But listen,
where people send in applications.
I've known since 2008 when fucking Obama put out some kind of giant tax credit to companies that created jobs but didn't necessarily have to fill them. And I knew this because I keep using the word audition because I'm a theater kid. I interviewed for a majority of those fucking jobs and forgot them.
Yeah.
And, and because of that, my master's degree means shit all, because I have a resume full of retail. because I had to fucking sling coffee to get by in this world. And so when I see a president that can literally not put a sentence together, and I need to know that there is some kind of reason left in society as a young person. Okay?
But
because there was a promise made to me when I was young that has not been fulfilled. And I understand that that's also the case for you guys, but this has gotten to a point of ridiculousness that I need to see people who are legitimately intellectual enough to form a sentence.
Well, the problem is that, and obviously I know you know this, so I'm not arguing with you when I say this. But the problem is whenever I hear somebody say these sorts of things about Kamala Harris specifically, I flash back to that moment where she was asked about whether she felt bad about locking mothers up because they had trouble getting their kids to go to school, and she laughed in the questioner's face.
I get it. That's horrible. She's not a good person, and
people now, and it seems like that part of the aesthetic that is being sold is that cackling in people's face that I don't owe you anything that we heard from Elizabeth Warren when she wouldn't drop out of the race, and people said, well, Elizabeth Warren doesn't owe anyone anything if she wants to stay in the race. Mm-hmm. Well, Elizabeth Warren staying in the race helped give us Joe Biden. Mm. And she knew what she was doing, and she understood what she was doing, and she understood that she was seen as more progressive than Biden, and that there would be people who would vote for her as long as she was in instead of Bernie.
How does that relate to Kamala?
Because we're seeing the same attitude. We're seeing from the liberals, we're seeing a worship of that laugh in your face attitude. These are some of the same people who thought it was, who got excited when Biden told people who asked him questions at town halls not to vote for him.
Yeah. Do you know why though?
They like seeing this attitude. They see this attitude because they want to tell people in power to fuck off. So they think when people in power are telling them to fuck off that somehow it's aspirational or something. They want to tell people in power to fuck off, and they don't totally get that this isn't people in power telling other people in power to fuck off. It's people in power telling us to fuck off.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing: it's a relief to me as an intellectual human to have somebody just say, "Yeah, I'm bullying you. Yeah, this is about a bully fucking popularity match situation." And no, this is not about talking points. No, this is not about reasoned argument. This is not about, because again, the two parties are ideologically essentially the same. So it's kind of a relief to see that this is becoming a high school popularity contest with the bitchiest of cliques, trying to knife each other in the back. So, to the point where research is starting to come out recommending that politicians say less facts, say less about their policies, and punch more down. I mean,
this has been the script for success since Bill Clinton.
And there are several reasons for it, and one of the main reasons for it is because there's no daylight, no substance between the conflict between red and blue. Right?
Sure, exactly. It's all these and they're even the things that they claim to agree about are things they're just going to agree about once the election is over.
So my point is that if we demand intellectual conversation out of the red versus blue war, then what we're just going to get is what we have been getting forever, is boring pablum, where they're just going to say things they don't do anyway, and they're just going to list facts that they're spun and put out by corporations. And that's just, we're tired of all that. So why don't we make it a reality show since Trump started it?
Well, no, that's what it's. I mean, really, that's what's happened, and that's what people are really upset about. They want to see some sort of reversing of the of our reality show politics, and that's never going to happen.
Yeah,
because the reality show politics is what it is now. That's what the media made it, and they can't just wind that back.
No, and it's honestly partially a natural progression about who our main audience is when we're developing media. Because it used to be our main audience for developing media was the rich upper elites. Mm-hmm. And that's why you had to speak a certain way. That's why you had to sound intelligent. That's why you had to list facts and be important and know professors and whatnot. But now it's more important for people to have money and for people to have popularity. And in that way, it's making the mass appeal more important within an election, within your success in general within this realm.
Well, they're trying to manufacture politicians like Hollywood manufactures celebrities now.
Yeah, but they always were.
Yeah, but if you've ever studied this, you're a theater person. Have you ever studied the studio system in Hollywood?
Yeah, a little bit.
So the studio system they were really, really almost scientific in the way they scouted people and recruited people and built people up, which is not to say there wasn't a lot of, oh, she's so beautiful stuff happening spontaneously too. But that was the exception, not the rule. They were really scientific in the way they scouted, recruited, and built up talent and created these media personalities.
Absolutely.
And Hollywood during the studio system got really good at it and never lost it, even though they don't use the same system to control Hollywood anymore. That same system of building up talent still exists in a very real way to manufacture celebrity. And we're seeing that embraced by Washington, D.C. in the post-Obama era, starting with Trump, in a way that it was never embraced before because of Obama's natural inclination towards celebrity and the media's tendency to portray him that way and treat him like a celebrity.
I think that Obama's charm and celebrity was intentional. And
I agree with that too.
He developed it knowing exactly what he was doing and knowing that he was entering a world in which media has a different relationship with the public.
And what we're seeing as a result is what I would call the post-Obama politics, where the celebrity has to come before the celebrity has to be created to make the politician credible. And all these politicians who aren't making it as celebrities,
right?
Especially in the Republican Party, where none of these people have much celebrity power. For years, they didn't anyway. Now, all of a sudden, you've got these celebrity Republicans who don't know anything, rapidly overtaking anyone who in the Republican Party who used to pretend to know anything, to the point where now pretending to know anything is bad if you're a Republican. It's better to embrace the stupid.
Well, that's, what is the term? Base. That's base.
Yes. All right, I'm going to play some more. We keep having good conversations.
Oh my God. Wait, stop. That's how old I am. It's base, not base.
Yes. Well, you see, that's the thing is, remember, millennials are now all people in their 30s and are no longer the youth themselves.
I am grappling with that, man. I am about to turn 39.
I remember when Gen X was the youth. I remember when Gen X was the youth, and now I'm 47, and I'm, struggling with the idea that I'm going to be 50 soon.
It hurts. It's weird.
And I'm at the point where, you talk about this being middle-aged, but if I were really middle-aged, that means I would expect to live to be at least 94 right now, right? Because I'm 47.
Yeah.
So, I mean, am I really going to live to be 94, or am I past middle age? And you start to think about that sort of thing.
Oh, don't think about that.
I'm trying not to. But anyway, I'm going to play some more of this to take my mind off it.
I'm so sorry. We didn't have to go there. About facing our mortality. We're talking about politics, damn it.
Politics is all about trying to struggle with the fact that these people are making us face our mortality, and how are we going to survive?
No.
And now I'll play the video.
Listen, wait. Before you do that, let me just say one thing about. I remember having difficulty when I was younger with older people feeling that way about me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, can you just stop thinking about my age for a hot fucking second and listen to what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I just want to point that out for a second, too, that both Gavin and Zach are extremely knowledgeable. They are not token members of Gen Z. I just want to point that out. I don't
I don't know anything about their age. Gavin and Zach are pretty cool. I have certain. They represent that they do a very good job of representing a very specific demographic mindset, and they do a very good job, and they're very smart and articulate guys.
Yes, then they put together good shows. They know what
they do. I agree. And I'm going to start the video again.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Fascist dictatorship.
I don't think I'm misunderstanding what it is. I'm just questioning. It seems forced.
Well, that is not what it is.
It seems forced to me to apply it to Kamala Harris.
Women acting like gay guys, that is not descriptive of the brat movement whatsoever. The girls, gays, and theys have always been
that's what you said.
A cultural group. It's not girls acting like gays.
Well, everybody has their own culture. The people you're talking about are often defining culture at the most elite levels. Yes.
It's not the most elite levels. Brat Summer has nothing to do with being elite. The album is able to stream.
This is actually a good point to stop, because here's Robbie Suave, a blonde white libertarian who is remarkably young to be anchoring a show on the Hill and having the job he has at Reason Magazine.
Yeah. Hey,
and he is here. He is here talking about the elite as if it's someone other than him.
Yep.
I mean, this is the thing that always bothers me about this certain kind of libertarian or conservative. And let's face it, Robbie Suave is on the right, whatever he may try to tell you or whatever some of his fans on the internet may believe.
100%.
The problem with this view on the right of elite is that they somehow seem to think that elite isn't a rich white guy like them making decisions about what's profitable.
Yeah, or what to say on national television. I mean,
the Rising is more is the internet and not actual television.
You know what I'm saying?
Still, yeah. The only difference, and I want to say this because
viewership is competitive with TV.
Oh, sure, but yeah. I want to. The only difference between the Rising and the Vanguard, or the Vanguard and us, is how much backing and support each one gets and what entities they get it from. Mm-hmm. So it's like those of us who are on the independent side, or at most audience sharing with people of like mind and political structure. The Vanguard guys are bread tubers, and they audience share with other bread tubers, and that's how bread tubers business models work, and I respect that. And and then you've got the completely independent shows like yours or mine that are just, out there trying to organically grow what audience we have. And we have those three different levels, but you and I think of The Hill or Rising as TV on one level, and we don't necessarily think of ourselves as TV.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But the only difference between Rising and us is production values, and the only reason they have better production values is money, and we probably have more intellectual heft than these guys.
Oh yeah, 3 million.
Because again, we're talking about TYT and Reason Magazine here.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, let me start this again. Sorry.
So that's just a little shout out to our audience. It'd be like, A, thank you for showing up. B, donate to the show so you can keep it going, okay? Because we got meat and they got nothing. Thank you.
Yeah, donate to my show, donate to Bess's show, donate to Pat and Layla's show, Punch Up.
Can I say donate to the Vanguard also? I think
yes. If you want to donate to the Vanguard, donate to the Vanguard. They're good guys. We're using their content. You should probably donate to them too.
Yes, they're great. And absolutely, I definitely donate to Pat and Layla's show. Definitely also, there are a lot of good people that are, have sort of pushed out by the right.
I don't even know if some of those shows are on anymore, honestly.
Some of the people are starting to come back, is what I'm trying to say.
That's good.
They're coming back. Zainab is coming back. Franco, I think, might be coming back. Frank Analysis.
Yeah, I remember him. Hopefully he's not still an anti-vaxxer.
I don't know, but there are definitely issues.
Because it was so weird. He broke with. It's so weird seeing him break with the other Jimmy Dore and Nico House folks on a lot of the white supremacist Kyle Rittenhouse stuff, but still see him recycling the anti-vax stuff, not understanding that it came from the same sources as the pro-Rittenhouse stuff.
Yeah,
it was hard to watch, but just commenting. Sorry.
That's okay. I didn't watch that, but I can understand your point, and I know that you have very strong feelings on the subject, so I respect that. And I respect your opinion and your research on the topic, because I don't know anybody really who is as well.
Zaina has done really good work on the topic of where a lot of this Zainab Day on Twitter, for those of you who are on Twitter.
Yeah.
At Zainab Day. She's done a lot of work with a lot of other people, bringing a lot of the threads of how a lot of this stuff got out there into the social media space, and from there into the mainstream media space.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. But anyway, that's
right.
What a lot of what I know comes from stuff I've picked up from being from knowing what's gone on with what she's been researching and what some other people have been researching.
Honestly,
and of course, what I've been looking at myself.
Same for me. They fill me in too. And another shout out to Gadfly Podcast.
Yes, Gadfly is great.
Yeah, they're great. So yeah, I mean it's definitely fucked up to know like how talking points evolve and where they come from. And it's then you really start to realize these quote unquote shades of gray between the Republicans and the Democrats are just complete bullshit.
I mean, we still have, we've got the kids in cages under Biden. We just stopped protesting it. Well, I mean, by we, I mean liberal white people, not you and me personally.
Right. Absolutely.
So now I want to note that this is really feeding good conversation, even in just like small chunks. So I'm glad you pointed this video out to me, and I'm going to start it up again.
Yeah, good, please.
for free.
What does it have to do with being left?
Do we think Jeff Bezos is jamming out to Charlie XCX? No, Robbie.
It might be. I don't know.
White straight men run the country. Those are the elites.
boy.
The girls, gays, and theys are the elites.
White
That's what you're
straight
going
men.
with.
Straight men run the
Oh,
country.
this is such a fun moment and a fun cope. So the brat movement, you'll see like
About that.
these like green haze.
Like Robbie's skepticism that white straight men run the country is kind of weird to me. You would think he would know this more than anyone else because that's why he has the jobs he has. I mean, that's the part that I don't get. Does he think he would have his job if either at Reason or at the Hill Rising if white straight men didn't run the country?
Yeah. I believe he does. I believe he thinks that's what is hilarious to me.
That's the problem with meritocracy. Yes, you've got this whole illusion that this white supremacist patriarchal system is meritocratic because of the tokenization of identities over substance, where people all believe the same thing, but we're supposed to believe this person is different because of their age and their ethnic background, without any address to the substance of the issues.
What was the point you're trying to make exactly? I'm sorry, I missed something.
We're supposed to believe that Kamala Harris is progressive because she's younger and she's... So Robbie wants us to believe that Kamala Harris is more progressive than he is because she's not the person he is. Whereas the difference between Robbie's thinking and Kamala's thinking is smaller than the difference between our thinking and Kamala's thinking.
Right.
But he wants you to believe there's a huge difference between him and her because of their identities.
Right.
And while identity is important, the things he's focused on are not the sum of their identities either. She comes from a class background that is more similar to his, even if her parents are disappointed in her, or at least her father.
Yeah.
I don't know if her mother's disappointed in her or not. You don't hear about her mother as much as far as her political thoughts.
Well, going back to this being more like a reality show than anything of substance.
Yes.
Like, it's also going to be fun to watch Kamala's response to a lot of the patriarchy that's going to fly her way. There's going to be a lot of, she's too emotional. She can't,
So what's going to happen? Well, it's going to be a replay of a lot of the 2016 election.
Right. Exactly.
You're going to see a lot of bad identity-based criticisms made of Kamala Harris by Republicans.
Right. But it's going to hit very differently for Kamala. There are 2 reasons for that. One, because she is younger and she's seen as younger.
Mm-hmm.
Because regardless of her actual age, she is seen as younger. So she's able to sort of give you a cool aunt vibe, okay, in a way that Hillary Clinton never could pull off. And she will be dealing with these things in a very different way that I think people are excited to see, because there are a lot of ways that, like, for example, like, there are some of us who have grown up in the girls' days gays culture, okay, me speaking myself, and there are a lot of ways that we have developed to deal with the patriarchy around us that don't get publicized. So we're hoping to see that in her sort of approach to Trump, right? Everybody has hopes for her. And they're all going to be disappointed. I'm definitely sure of that. But that's part of what's going on, I think, also, when we're talking about the girls, gays, and days, whatever, is that there really is, and just another quick tangent is that what Robbie said early on about. Oh, he was quoting Barry Weiss saying that how girls were acting like gay guys, which I find because gay guys act like girls because we all grew up in the same essentially female
I get what they're what they're talking about, just to sort of to take it for what they're talking about is stereotypical gender conformity. And they're saying that gay people, that gay men behave a certain way because they don't conform to stereotypical gender roles. And then he's trying to make a weird.
No,
Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss is making a weird statement because she's Barry Weiss and doesn't and has to make everything weird.
So no, here's what it is. It's it's more complicated than that, because the entirety of female culture is not spoken about.
Oh, sure.
Well, is spoken about is like the tip of the iceberg. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there is so much in female culture is not spoken about that gay men have embodied and popularized. Okay. So the behaviors that gay men have popularized often have to do with lower class, often POC,
yes.
women, and how they deal with their lower class situations.
Yes.
And that's the kind of attitude that you're starting to see come up, and you're starting to see be popularized by the gay guys. So when you're talking about having women act like gay guys, you're saying that women are no longer acting like the submissive, good girl, like participants in patriarchy, and we are starting to act rebelliously. We are starting to own our sexuality. We are starting to own the fact that we are human on top of our sexuality. So that, being a brat, you just had sex last night, but you're walking into breakfast with your face and makeup or whatever, because that's who you are.
Sure.
So, and that, again, those are aspects of female existence, of gay existence, of that whole, our culture. Those are aspects of our culture that we do not talk about or celebrate. And now that we're starting to. And again, I'm not saying any of that is Kamala's fault. I'm saying
no.
You have ripped into this.
Well, no, but you also notice that we're seeing that this. And again, I want to draw attention to this because I think it's so important. And the way I said it before and the way it's done, I think it really matters. Because we're seeing this sort of adolescent rebelliousness. Because when we talk about brat, you boil it down at its basic, most simplistic, reductive identity. Brat is someone who is a kid that rejects parental authority.
Right.
So when we talk about someone being a brat, we're talking about a rebel against a system of authority that may or may not be real, but is arbitrary and unjust.
Yes.
And there is a powerful symbolism in that word, brat, as a result.
That's true.
Now, we take that word brat and we put it on a set of adolescent rebellious behaviors that are not being directed upwards at authority, but are being directed horizontally at other members of the ruling class and downward at those who would question the ruling class. And we're seeing this behavior spun by the media as this cool, bratty, adolescent rebelliousness.
That's an excellent point.
When it's actually really, really punching down at anyone who would deign ask questions of their betters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to understand how this is being presented to us by the media.
Mm-hmm.
Because both with Trump and with Biden, and now with the spin around some of Harris's less democratic behaviors,
mm-hmm.
we're seeing an emphasis on the very things that make them authoritarian and potentially fascist as somehow rebelliousness against the system.
I'm not seeing that yet, but I can see the potential for that.
Well, because the best example really is Trump, because it starts there. Okay. The idea that being pissed about immigrants in a country that does everything it can to keep immigrants out, is somehow edgy and rebellious.
Yeah.
Or that being pissed about Muslims in an anti-Muslim, anti-Arab, pro-Christian culture is somehow edgy and rebellious. Or that being pissed about crime in a police state.
So here's the thing, though. Like, Trump is a reaction, right?
Yes.
I mean, like that conservative that you could, that conservative line of thinking, I guess, you could trace back to the 80s and Reaganism. Is a direct reaction to the hippie politics of the 60s and 70s, right? So in a large way, we're still playing out that fight. You know what I'm saying? It's like that fight.
I know exactly what you're saying. When I was a kid, there was a guy on TV named Wally George.
Okay.
Who, fun fact, it's hilarious how these things all fit together.
Wally is a hilarious name to begin with. So
Wally is a hilarious name to begin with, but
Wally.
People don't understand his media importance because he was such a local figure. But so his daughter is Rebecca De Mornay.
Okay.
Who is, of course, big name actress.
I don't know her.
Not as big name now, but big name actress once upon a time, big star. Lots of movies. All my fellow Gen Xers and some boomers would know who she was. People who are younger, who watched the Marvel stuff on Netflix, she played Patsy Walker's mother on Jessica Jones.
Oh, I didn't watch that one.
Oh, she's great in that. Everybody's great in Jessica Jones. Everybody needs to see. I hate to say it. I don't want to tell people to pay money for Disney Plus, so you have to pirate it right now. Be good. Pirate it. Pirate Jessica Jones so that you can watch it without violating BDS. Don't give Disney your money. But when you pirate Jessica Jones and watch it, you will love all the acting by everybody. In the first season, the bad guy is David Tennant from Doctor Who.
I love David Tennant.
He's the bad guy. He's this evil, mind-controlling bad guy. It's really dark and great, and it's the whole thing is dark and twisted and freaky. And Rebecca De Mornay plays an over the hill actress who's the stage mother of a aged out child actress. But anyway, I digress too much. Wally George is the model for Rush Limbaugh, who's the model for everybody else in media right now.
Yeah, I think that's probably why I didn't see it. If there's sexual assault in it, probably didn't see it. I can't knowingly walk into a scene of sexual assault. Sorry.
What are we talking about?
Jessica Jones. Isn't there sexual assault in there?
I don't remember.
Oh.
I'd have to watch every episode to see.
I don't remember. I thought that there was a huge...
There is some creepy stuff because the character controls people's minds, and that makes and he does make women think they're in love with him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm remembering correctly that there was something.
There are probably things that could be interpreted that way. Yes, now that you're talking about that.
Yeah, that's probably why I didn't see it.
That's probably why you didn't watch it. Yeah,
I'm good. I honestly have to be careful when
if it triggers you, you shouldn't watch it. I agree.
Yeah, no, I'm saying in general when I delve into comic books and Marvel and DC and all that stuff. Like there are stories that I genuinely really enjoy. A lot of storylines I genuinely enjoy, a lot of heroes that I particularly like, but there are also just blatant patriarchy fucking everywhere, and sexual assault is like nothing in some of the storylines, and I just can't. I have to.
No, totally. Well, I mean, it's It's the thing about comic books at its best and its worst. It is a medium that is created by men who still think like teenage boys, for teenage boys and young men.
Yep. It's an expression of the patriarchy. And honestly, in and of itself, there's nothing wrong with that.
And there's some very good content from people like Gail Simone that challenge that, but there hasn't been enough to really break it up or break it down. And there has been too much what I would call cult of personality around creators that has allowed a lot of right-wing politics to sneak into the fandom during the periods where Nazis always try to infiltrate subcultures.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a whole topic for another show too. I have whole things about that. I'm going to start the video again.
Oh yeah, we should get back to where Gabby was talking.
I wish
Videos,
like right men
and you'll see
ran the country. Yeah, we're run by a bunch of I don't know, Van Halen fans. I think we're run by people.
I had to stop it again. Even that tiny clip. There's so much to unpack. I wish straight white men run the country. I don't know. It's like we're run by a bunch of Van Halen fans.
Wait,
Who
stop.
do you think Van Halen fans are?
Chris, you have to play the clip like 10 seconds further because they go even further into that.
People who think that the 80s was yesterday. You know?
videos like the ones we showed of Kamala Harris. It's called a fan cam usually. And so it's got the Brat Summer music. We've also had Femininomenon, which is a music like theme about women having power. It comes from a Chappell Roan song. That's why Kamala is a thing. And it's about women empowerment and how we need a movement of women because we've lived.
What was that?
I said mute yourself. You were echoing.
Oh, sorry.
But I just thought it was funny. Also, who said this? Did Zach say that they feel like people who thought the 80s were yesterday? That's
yeah.
And I'm sorry, but we do feel that way. I feel that way.
I mean, the 80s.
The fucking 80s, man.
How does
so many stories?
I mean, what is? I'm just trying to think of what does Robbie mean by that exactly? I mean, again, what about Van Halen fans or 80s fans does Robbie find particularly not white or straight? I mean, if you really we're talking about the Reagan era. Was there any era whiter and straighter than the Reagan era?
I don't think they're arguing that the people in charge are not white and straight. They're just
Robbie seems to be
white, straight, and old.
Well, Robbie seems to be arguing that they're not white and straight.
Oh, Robbie is definitely.
And Robbie seems to think that Van Halen fans and fans of 80s culture are somehow less likely to be white and straight.
That's what Zach said, not Robbie.
Oh, was that? Let me listen to that again. I'm pretty sure that was Robbie. Maybe I heard that wrong.
No, that was an interjection from them.
Let me go back.
Lived in a society mostly run by men. And so it's got the Brat Summer music. We've also had Femininomenon, which is a music. It's called a fan cam usually.
Okay, further.
That's what you're going.
Straight men run the country.
This is such a fun moment and a fun cope. So the Brat movement, you'll see like these like green haze over the videos, and you'll see
ran the country. Yeah, we're run by a bunch of.
Oh, you're right.
I don't know, Van Halen fans.
Oh, it's very validating to hear you say that. Thank you.
Okay, you're right. No, you're right. That's weird. I wish white straight men run the country. We're run by a bunch of. So that wasn't. Oh. I don't understand the difference. Van Halen fan. Oh, okay. I get what we're saying. I'm not sure what he's saying there, though. Van Halen fans are straight white men.
Yes.
I think we're run
He
by
acknowledges
people
that.
who
I
think
think
that the 80s.
That they're straight white men that are older.
I got you.
On the country.
Was yesterday. You know?
Videos like the ones we showed of Kamala Harris. It's called a fan cam usually. And so it's got the Brat Summer music. We've also had Feminine Phenomenon, which is a music like theme about women having power. It comes from a Chappell Roan song. That's why Kamala Phenomenon is a thing. And it's about women empowerment and how we need a movement of women because we've lived in a society mostly run by men for a very long time. And look how it's going, not so well. So that's what it's about, really.
But what this sounds to me like is Hillary Clinton girl boss feminism once again.
No, because
but how is it different?
I totally agree that it's different. By the way, a lot of the kind of girl boss memes with Hillary Clinton were super cringy. It was like the kind of Katy Perry coded girl boss, like pink power, pussy hat bullshit that was super kind of like astroturfed by elite corporations and stuff like
the
that.
Pantsuit Nation.
The Pantsuit Nation. What's happening with the Charlie XCX, Brat Summer, Kamala thing is organic. It is 100% organic. It's actually a result of young people online being enthusiastic about Kamala Harris. And it might have started out ironically for sure, but it kind of has blossomed.
Okay, that's the part I'm not actually sure about.
I think maybe I think you should let them talk for another minute on that topic. I can say more.
Into a real thing with people genuinely excited about the fact that, yeah, even though she's not a real leftist, we have a younger, candidate, someone of color running against Donald Trump, who at least is a fresh face, at least represents something new. And yeah, I mean, in combination with all the hilarious clips of Kamala Harris out there kind of drunkenly, acting like a wine mom, being kind of messy on the microphone. It's just kind of a vibe, it's a joke.
It's honestly the perfect foil, the utter antithesis to Pokemon Go to the polls, right? It's actually surfing a relevant cultural moment. You know what I mean? It's the Brat Summer. Kamala is Brat. You know what I mean? Charlie XCX isn't even from America. You know what I mean? It's just like, what is the defining cultural moment? And people want it to not be Donald Trump so badly that they're willing to attach it to Kamala Harris.
Okay, yeah.
Now that part makes sense. I don't think that is so much a genuine organic media phenomenon as it is the reaction of a bunch of people who are being fed the idea that Trump is bad and that they should be relieved that it's not that it's Kamala Harris now instead of Biden. And the biggest thing that I see is less organic enthusiasm and more a bunch of media accounts that were all about Palestine when Joe Biden was still on the ticket, changing their icons from watermelons to coconuts as soon as it's Kamala Harris.
Oh, my God.
So it's very hard for me to read anything organic into any of it. The people who are putting that stuff out there are, and this is ironic to me, and it's ironic to me because on multiple levels. But what you've got is you've got a lot of Bernie supporters who were screaming about Kamala in 2020 with coconuts after their names now.
Wow.
Holding her up there as, the best chance to stop Trump and to save us from fascism. And not even, and saying, and we hope she's going to be different than Biden, and we think we can move her to be different than Biden. But without any threat to withhold anything from her to demand that she be different than Biden. They're already obeying in advance the idea that Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are their only options, and that Kamala Harris is therefore the best possible option.
Right.
And I mean, and everybody's in on this. Everybody from the bread tube level to the Twitter level to the TYT level to the Rising level to the TikTok level on some degree is in on this or is being influenced by someone in on this. You and I aren't in on it, but people we know are influenced by people who are in on it. People we know people who are in on it. Some of the people I used to be friends with are in on it now. It's just, and for what it is the decision for large portions of the progressive movement to obey tyranny in advance by admitting that there is nothing better we can do than support whoever the Democratic nominee ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
Which is exactly like a union voting not to strike
Right.
before their negotiations with the boss.
Right.
It's obeying in advance. This guy, Timothy Snyder, who supposedly wants us to vote against Trump to stop fascism, says in his book that we're not supposed to obey in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Except he wants us to obey in advance and vote for Kamala Harris.
Well, it's all about painting two sides of the same coin so different that you don't realize they're the same coin, right? I mean, because that's the point, is that no matter whether we have a Trump themed fascism or a Kamala Harris themed fascism, it's going to be the same fascism. We're still going to be murdering people in Palestine. We're still going to be murdering people all over the fucking globe. We're going to be murdering people here in America. We're still going to be bringing back the sweatshops. We're still going to be legalizing homelessness, which has already happened, and we're still going to be enforcing slave labor in prisons, which has already been happening for years.
And all of that is the unspoken part that comes before the words, but at least it's not Trump.
Right. I mean, that's the problem. So here's what I think essentially is going to happen, hopefully within the next couple of weeks to a month. I think we're going to get over this whole, like, I'm so excited for Kamala thing or whatever, and then we'll be able to get a little bit of room to push. Like, I really feel like
I'll tell you what I see coming
happening right now.
I'll tell you what I see happening, because I remember 2020 very well and was very active in electoral tweeting in 2020.
Wait. Let me just put a bow on what I was saying. So to the point where I see enthusiasm even on the left, even people who don't like Democrats or not even planning to vote for Kamala Harris. I see people who are enthusiastic about the fact that we don't have to deal with Biden anymore. And I definitely think that there is a serious sense of relief here on some level, that like the lowest of bars has at least been met on some level. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I think it is?
Dementia has.
I'm going to close the screen share actually now.
And I definitely think that at the end of the day, we're going to start remembering that she's terrible in about like a couple weeks from now. Like,
I think a lot of people are. I do think a lot of people are, but
excitement here that needs to be like sort of played out before we can make much of an impact otherwise.
There is a set of our colleagues and a set of people we associate with, or if not associate with, then report on, and sometimes associate with ourselves in our mind, who between elections are very, very critical of the Democratic Party and the Democratic politicians and the people who hold power, but who during the election year stop on a dime, pivot 180 degrees, and cheerlead for them until the election is over.
Yep.
And then they start being critical again, and they wonder how this happened.
Yep, that is frustrating to watch.
Some of these people are my friends. I've had arguments with people I consider friends on this issue, some of whom are still friends and some of whom aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, to some degree, it comes to, in the end, one of the biggest reasons that people have trouble maintaining friendships across political boundaries is at some point you start talking about real values. And you start wondering whether somebody else really does believe that the life of someone in Gaza is as valuable as their own life.
Mm-hmm.
And you start wondering the way that, well, I know what's happening in Gaza. I don't want to happen here. Okay, well, it is happening here. It's just not happening. But it's happening here, say in Florida or Georgia. And well, yeah, but I live in a blue state and I don't want it to happen here. And then you point out how it's happening in a blue state. And yes, well, but it's not happening to me yet. And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
They want to support what they think will stop it from happening to them in the future by any means necessary, even if it means throwing the people overboard who have already been hurt.
I also think that a lot of it is like the red versus blue political framework is so ingrained in our country to the point where we teach that like the history of political parties. We teach that there was like one political party before the Whigs, right? And then they turned into the Democrats, right? Like that's how we teach it, to the point where like we've always believed that there's only ever been two parties. There are people to understand an election in a way differently, that there are actually other countries that have elections with several parties fucking in them. Like that is a educational
one of the things
to happen, and it needs to happen.
One of the things about history that really needs to be understood is that in the United States, there have primarily been two factions of the ruling class. And those two factions of the ruling class have created political parties in order to express their political disagreements with each other and to resolve them while preserving their status quo as a whole.
And it's still the case, yes.
Yes. Now, that is the two-party system, which has existed in various forms through U.S. history. And then there have been various organic political movements that, to varying degrees, have succeeded in altering that two-party system and forcing the ruling class to conform to a change of values.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the political evolution of the two-party system has been up until after World War II. After World War II, the leaders of the Democratic Party began to co-opt all of the formerly progressive movements and make them into institutional arms of the Democratic Party.
Mm.
So a labor movement that had been formed to pressure Franklin Delano Roosevelt through confrontational politics became the tool of Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon in various ways.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason this and Ronald Reagan further down the road.
Uh-huh.
And the reason this happened was because the union movement became institutionalized into the Democratic Party in ways that made it part of the ruling class power structure and not representative of workers.
Mm-hmm.
which is why union suits have more in common with bosses than workers far too often.
Yeah.
And why the United Auto Workers, who are considered a radical union, elected Sean Fain, considered a radical labor leader, with less than 3% of the union membership voting, and with no extra time given for more than 3% of the union membership to vote after the official votes were all delivered.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a socialist running in that same race, and the socialist running in that same race for union president wanted the election period extended so more members of the union could vote for who their president would be, wanted more voting sites, wanted more access to union democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this was denied, and they put Sean Fain in charge, and that was that.
Mm-hmm.
And on the one hand, Sean Fain is launching a big protest to try to pressure the White House, allegedly. But on the other hand, he's already endorsed Joe Biden for president. Union money is going to be going to super PACs whose job is to support Biden's reelection.
Yep.
This is a fact. Union members are going to be donating to Biden's campaign because the union asked them to.
Yep.
And those small dollar donations are going to be used to launder maximum allowed donations from whales and bundlers.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to see all this bundling where people are matching other people's donations and getting lots of money to politicians as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that is going to be happening on behalf of candidates who managed to largely marginalize their competition in primaries, or who didn't even run in their primaries in the case of Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the democracy? I mean, the next president is going to be one of the least democratically chosen in American history.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
The least public input ever, regardless of who wins. How is that not net more fascism than we have now, regardless of what happens from this point forward? If we accept this obey in advance, only the Republicans and Democrats can win mindset.
Yeah. I mean, that's the fallacy, right? I mean, that's the fallacy that Democrats cling to, is that the fascism they're afraid of does not already exist around them. It does.
It just isn't affecting them personally yet.
Well, so, some of them it did, because there were plenty of primaries canceled in favor of Biden.
Yes, but they don't feel like they were negatively impacted by that. They thought it was. They think it's a hassle voting in the primaries anyway. It's something they do because they're good Democrats, but they're kind of relieved not to have to do it, because they didn't really object to Biden, and they like Harris.
Yep.
And so that raises a whole, and all of this is easily explained away until they stop being comfortable.
Yep.
And when do they stop being comfortable? When you start openly talking about about doing the things that the Democrats are allowing to happen anyway, quietly.
Yeah. And I mean, the larger question is how representative is the media of the general population anyway? Because the large majority of people are not red versus blue, right? Like
and really the unspoken thing that I have to say is that these friends that I've had these conversations with are of a more comfortable economic class status than we are.
Mm-hmm.
And by we, I know that I'm somewhat economically more comfortable than you.
Yep.
And that you are somewhat more economically comfortable than some of our comrades who are homeless.
Yep.
And the friends that I am talking about are at least as more economically comfortable than me as as you are more economically comfortable than one of our comrades who is homeless.
Right. To the point.
So that's that's what I'm talking about as far as the class levels of all this.
Absolutely. And I'm agreeing with you because if you look at I have to pull up some statistics on this. And honestly, I want to do a video about it because the majority of America, like 80% of Americans make under $100,000 a year.
Yes.
So if you're talking about people who make, and we are talking about people who make at least 75 to $100,000 a year, at least.
You know why they started measuring the median take-home pay instead of the average take-home pay?
What? Say it again. I'm sorry.
You know why they started measuring the median take-home pay in economic statistics instead of the average take-home pay?
Why?
Well, the median is the magical halfway point.
Right.
It's just the magical arbitrary, this is halfway, this is the median. So
the
nobody actually needs to make that. Even fewer people make the median than the average. And the average is going to be a lower number than the median because of who owns everything in our society.
Yeah. But again, even with judging by median incomes.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. The median
of the country not being represented by the voices in our media.
The median income is like 50,000, and something like 45% of the people actually make the median income or higher. So we're talking about 55%. More than half the population makes less than the median.
I've literally never made that much in my entire life, and I
am making more money than I have ever made in my entire life, literally from my day job now.
Yeah.
And it's taken till I'm 47 to get to this point.
Yeah.
Which is sad. And I am still making less than the median. I'm making more than I have ever made in my entire life at the age of 47.
That is so beyond fucked, man. And again, not the America we are told.
And you know, and the thing is that in a lot of ways, the fact that I am more comfortable than many comrades less off than me is something I try to be conscious of, and I try to focus my solidarity on the people who are less comfortable than me, rather than making it all about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel like these people who are saying, but Trump, are making it all about themselves in a unattractive and uncomfortable way.
Yep.
Even when they're people you want to remain friends with, it's somewhat jarring and it's hard to deal with. And I don't know.
Yeah. It was easier when those people, like, it was easier when the middle class was bigger.
Yes.
Right? And it literally 10 to 15 years ago, I'm even talking about. And we were all in the same class. But then since then, shit has drastically divided.
Well, Marx called it class immiseration, where people who would be part of the petty bourgeois fall to the proletariat.
Uh-huh.
And people who would be part of the proletariat or working class fall to the lumpen proletariat or the completely disenfranchised.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And fascism comes from the class immiseration of the formerly bourgeois or petty bourgeois into the proletariat or the lumpen proletariat in a way that causes them to resent the people around them as much as they resent the people who dropped them from their former stature. And they don't like being reduced to the level of black people and immigrants and queer people and women as they see it in their minds.
Yeah.
And those are the people who go Nazi.
Yep. Sure is. Those are the people who talk about the deep state. deep state.
And the funny thing is you can talk. There is a reality to the deep state, but the reality of the deep state is just what we call the dictatorship of capital. The fact that the people who invest in everything and own everything are the people whom the state tends to serve, because the basis of liberal systems of rights is this idea of autonomy, which means you own yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you own yourself, then your human rights are just another form of property rights.
Yeah.
And if your human rights are just another form of property rights that are based on ownership, that means you can legally be coerced by economic status to sign your own human rights away, and no one else can stop, and no one else is allowed to stand up for you, and you're not allowed to stand up for yourself.
I mean, that's essentially the truth, isn't it?
That's the argument that's being made.
I mean, isn't that how the world works?
That's how the world works now, yes. And that's what we're trying to change in theory. But nobody seems to want to wrestle with the reality of how it is now.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing. It's like when you are comfortable within a society, you don't see the fascist elements of that society, right?
Exactly.
And there are a lot of us who were comfortable once and are no longer comfortable, that are realizing that we never lived in a fascism-free society. That
we just weren't exposed to the fascism ourselves.
Anything that is assigned to be the deep state is just the state. There's no deep.
Yes.
It's just how the fucking state works. It's just.
And when we talk about bureaucracy is the ruling class. Bureaucracy is a certain portion of the ruling class of the state.
Yes.
It's sort of the lower ruling class of the state, if you wish, the middle management class of the state.
The lesser nobility, if you will.
The portion of it's the function of the state apparatus that has the most potential to do help or harm. And because the bureaucracy in a liberal state is geared to protect the status quo by helping as little as possible, it allows more harm to be done than it will ever alleviate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is, that in itself is a deliberately fascist decision. And it's made by capitalists who just want to keep making money.
Yep. Ain't that the world we live in?
That's the world we live in. That is the world that we seek liberation from.
Mm-hmm.
And Kamala Harris is not interested in liberation from that world. It is girl boss feminism.
Yes.
It may be a more culture may be more receptive to the tropes being used than it was when they were being used for Hillary Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's still the pantsuit crew. It's still the same. It's still the same voices on the internet raising the same grassroots support.
Yeah.
It's still the same progressive journalists suddenly talking about how much they respect Kamala Harris, the same way they suddenly talked about how much they respected Hillary Clinton.
Well, and it's also here's what I think they think the difference is, because substance wise, I completely agree with you. But the difference is when the reality show elements come in. So Hillary Clinton was very concerned with looking professional and very concerned with never being messy. Okay. Whereas Kamala Harris is a wine mom. She's definitely constantly on something. She appears to be like her reactions are delayed. Like she seems to be slightly inhibited
So
every time she
you're a
speaks.
theater person.
I am not. I am the last person to complain about that.
I'm just going to say, as a theater person, you know all about. Even if you've not partaken of it yourself, I'm not making any accusations. But as a theater person, I am assuming that you know all about the practices of using stimulants to remain active when necessary, and downers to get sleep when you can.
Absolutely, and trust.
And I will admit myself that I am a hippie speedball guy who loves to mix pot and caffeine.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. It's not uncommon, and it's definitely not uncommon when you are a politician, and a large part of your job is.
And this was what my next thing was going to say.
Performance.
The next obvious step from in our celebrity to politician culture, where politicians are more and more meeting the demands that celebrities have to meet, is you get politicians who are on the same constant level of drugs as Mickey Rooney or Judy Garland for the same reasons.
Yeah. And so is Trump reportedly.
And well, yes, Trump and Biden both supposedly.
So
I mean, both of them, and the Biden White House and the Trump White House were both allegedly handing out prescriptions like
candy,
like candy stores hand out M&Ms. Yes.
Yeah, seriously. Well, here's the thing though. Like it's kind of a relief to see that other people function that way.
I'm not saying that I don't understand or I'm not condemning it. It's just, it's important to be aware of all this. I mean, and you have to ask the question, how much did at his age and with the other inputs on his health already from being president, how much? Sorry, I was still going somewhere. I'll shut up.
I'm sorry. I tried to stop you before you started, but gotta get in there. So no, my point is this. My point is that as somebody who is as somebody who is just like armchair watching politics, right? And you see that the Democrats have always presented themselves as some level of professor, some level of authority, some level of moral authority, some level of intellectual authority. Okay. And now, we are descending into the game of reality TV show. Trump has brought us, drastically there. And we have seen both Hillary and Biden try the professor shtick, try the happy grandpa shtick, try the, the good guy that knows a little bit more than you shtick, to failure so many fucking times.
And now we're seeing an attempt to.
Now we want to see people take off their rings and fucking take off their shoes and get into a fight, and that's what we're hoping for.
Well, I will admit that on an aesthetic level, as far as a commentator on politics, the more they descend into something that I can just mock and no longer have to pretend to take seriously, the better on one level.
I don't see why you're taking it seriously now, buddy. Aren't we there yet? Haven't we been there?
Well, no. I mean, yeah, no. I mean, I am. I mean, when I say we, I don't so much mean you and me. We're already doing that.
Right.
I mean,
everybody.
Yeah. As a society,
right?
And the more, because the way I see it is, you've got the spectacle, which is this political show that's going on, which has taken the place of the Roman circus, in the sense that the Roman circus was the sporting events that everybody got to go to for free,
right?
Where every citizen who couldn't afford seats could go to the standing room only section and still watch the show for free.
Right.
Our sporting events don't have that anymore. Instead, we have mass media, television, politics, news, and music, and the way all that stuff feeds together.
Yeah, well, sports is a part of that, I would argue. But yeah.
Well, sports is a part of that, but you can't go to the game for free anymore.
No, you can't.
The government will not pay for your Dodgers tickets.
No, it won't.
Now,
But you can.
I will say
for
that
free.
if the government were serious, about getting its investment back on the money that it puts into stadiums,
Yeah.
it would require teams to give a certain number of tickets away free every year to the general public without means testing on an equal basis.
Yes. Now that would be nice.
Now that's a whole nother thing, and I'm not saying, and that's under capitalism, obviously. If the government wanted to try to seriously buy us off, because the Roman bread and circuses really was you got to eat, and you got to watch sports.
Mm-hmm.
Those were your guaranteed rights as a Roman. You got to eat and watch sports. We do not even have the guaranteed right of being able to eat and watch sports in this country. On a material level, we have fewer rights than the citizens of the Roman Empire, who still had their right to eat and watch sports guaranteed.
I'm really cool with not having the right to watch sports.
You know, and that's up to you. You can go with it. It is important to understand that the theater was considered sports in those days too,
as it always still
and
should.
that there were competitions between playwrights.
As sports is theater, so is theater.
The Olympics. Now, if the modern Olympics were true to the classical Olympics, there would be gold medals for tragedies and comedies and satyr plays.
That would be so cool.
And you would see people doing Angels in America to see if Tony Kushner could win the gold medal for tragedy that year at the Olympics. That sort of thing.
Yes. Okay, sorry.
So this is what it was like in ancient Greece. Athens, literally the famous Athenian playwrights whose work survive to this day. The reason they survive to this day is these are people who won medals or competed in these competitions in Athens for the right to win a medal and even to go to the Olympics to represent Athens. And that's why we know their work today, for no other reason, really.
That's so awesome, man.
So it's like, as a theater person, you should understand that theater used to be part of sports, and that playwrights used to be considered athletes, and that actors were like the professionals who were so it was very much like sports, whereas that you were competing for your boss in the same way that you compete for your boss in sports now.
I knew that on some level, but the Olympics thing I didn't know, so that's cool.
There were gold medals for playwrights at the Olympics.
That's so fucking nuts, man.
They also had the Olympic truce. They made Sparta and Athens stop fighting for the actual year of the Olympic Games during the Peloponnesian War.
Wow. Well, I wish we still did that.
Well, and that's the whole thing. We're not letting Russia attend. The Olympic Committee isn't letting Russia attend because it would violate the spirit of the Olympic truce.
But we let Israel attend?
But they're letting Israel attend. Yeah, no, that's the point.
Oh, shit.
There's a double standard for you.
I didn't realize the Russia angle.
Oh, yeah. Russia's not invited to 2024.
I didn't know that. Shit.
Russia's not invited to 2024 because of the war in Ukraine. Now,
wow.
I want to say that if Russia and Ukraine and Israel and a couple of other places in the world, Rwanda comes to mind because they're fighting a war against Congo nobody knows about.
Yeah.
Various other governments in the world who are cooperating with U.S. genocides or corporate genocides. If we were actually banning a whole list of countries that were doing this stuff, including Russia and Ukraine, from competing in the Olympics for violating the Olympic truce, then I would totally support that. I want to say that up front.
Mm.
But this banning Russia as an example, while ignoring all those others, ignoring Rwanda, ignoring Israel,
yeah,
ignoring Ukraine.
Yeah.
Just not inviting Russia. That's political, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not just political. That's like blatantly bullshit political. That's like Putin doesn't get to sit at the cool kids table.
Yeah. It's like petty click shit.
I mean, I'm not saying that Putin is a great guy or that Russia has a government we should support. Neither of those things are true.
Correct.
But nobody is genuinely trying to achieve democratic self-determination for the people of Russia. True democratic self-determination for the people of Russia would have left something very much like communism intact with more opportunity for the PMC.
Mm-hmm.
What happened after the Soviet Union fell was a Russian PMC fantasy of what Russia could be like if it's super westernized, super fast, helped along by the greedy steroids of Western capitalists.
Mm. Yeah.
And as a result, it pissed off a lot of Russians and we got stuck with Putin.
Yep. Well,
and people can complain about that all they want, but those are the facts.
Yeah.
And Kamala Harris isn't going to change that.
Nope. She's not going to change shit.
And Donald Trump isn't either. Even though he makes a big show of liking Putin and being against the Ukraine, Donald Trump is not going to change the imperial order. He might just change who some of our friends are. He's still buddies with Netanyahu. Netanyahu supports Trump for president, even though Biden supports Netanyahu.
Yeah.
And you've got people who are really gung-ho about Palestine trading their watermelons in for coconuts and saying, I really hope Kamala Harris will be better. Well, Kamala Harris's husband goes on Zoom calls with lobbyists and promises that Kamala Harris will be as good as Biden for Israel.
Yeah. Yep. There was just, she was just shaking hands with Netanyahu five minutes ago.
Douglas Emhoff is someone who has materially supported the settler movement in many ways. It has nothing to do with ethnicity or religion. He is a material supporter of settlements.
Yeah. Well, that might be a good place to wrap up.
It's actually a very good place to wrap up. We're right around 2 hours, and 2 hours is usually right around great. And anything that we start off now will basically be a whole new show anyway.
Right. Which, of course, I would love to do with you, but I do have to run and get.
No, I understand. But this has been a really good show. The video was a great starting point for a lot of different conversations. And I really appreciate you sharing that today.
Absolutely. I appreciate the Vanguard for making it. And I appreciate you for having me on the show so regularly. It's really nice to be able to have these regular conversations with you. I feel like every time we talk about the same subjects, we get a little more deep. So
I really appreciate you telling me to shut up when someone needs to. So thanks.
Oh, well, I apologize for that, but
don't apologize for that. I just thanked you for it.
I respect you.
So one of the number one problems that capitalism instills in us is to apologize for things that are not our fault, to let someone else off the hook for something.
Well, I do that a lot, and
we all do that a lot.
Have a tendency.
I do that to my wife. My wife does that to me. I do that to my friends. My friends do that to me.
Yeah.
I do that to my boss. My boss does that to me. I do that to my customers at work. My customers at work do that to me. We all apologize all the time for things that are not our fault, to let someone else off the hook for it.
Well,
and that's one thing that as socialists we should work on. We should apologize genuinely for things that really are our fault. And when people thank us for things, we should, say thank you back and not I'm sorry.
Okay, well, thank you for being self-aware and understanding, and for giving me the space to speak. I appreciate it.
No,
And
because
I also respect you for having that conversational style, because it's a common conversational style, and there's nothing wrong with it.
I
So
do it
don't
the
think
same.
you should be
I have the same worry you do, that I'm going to forget what I'm going to say.
I know exactly. I get you. I smoke pot. It's cool.
No, but no, I appreciate I do really appreciate, and I think that's really the best way I can wrap up my final thoughts, is I really do appreciate that. And the reason I keep having you back on the show is you really do tell me when I need to shut up so you can speak.
Well, cool. I will keep doing it.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that you appreciate it, bro. Thank you for having
So everybody else, you guys have a great week. We will see you online if you are online people. And we will see you next week, or at least I will. And it's up to Bess if she does or not. Next week, I will be talking to Connor Exum about local politics in New York, upstate.
Awesome.
Because that's something that I haven't talked to anybody about in quite a while.
Cool. Connor's great.
So everybody, you guys have a great week, and we will tweet at you.
Thank you.